It is 6:30 a.m. on January 15, 1947. The sun is just burning the dew off the grass in a vacant lot at 39th and Norton in Los Angeles. A woman named Betty Berzinger is walking with her 3-year-old daughter. She's probably thinking about breakfast. About the milkman. About a normal Tuesday. Then her eye catches something white in the weeds. Something that looks like a broken mannequin. A department store display tossed in the dirt. But as she gets closer, the smell hits her first. That sweet, metallic tang of blood mixed with wet earth. Then she sees the hair. Dark. Tangled. Very real. And she realizes the white thing is a woman. Cut clean in half at the waist. Completely drained of blood. Positioned like a ballerina taking a bow. Arms raised over her head. Legs splayed at a grotesque angle. And her face. Oh God, her face. Slit from the corners of her mouth to her ears. A Glasgow smile. Carved so deep the muscles of her cheeks hang open. She's staring at the sky with eyes that will never blink again. But here's the thing the first cops on scene notice. The body is scrubbed clean. Not a speck of dirt. Not a single fingerprint. The killer washed her. Like she was a doll. Like she was an offering. Her name was Elizabeth Short. But the papers will call her the Black Dahlia. She was 22 years old. Born in Boston. A girl who wanted to be a movie star. But let's be honest. She wasn't an actress. She was a waitress. A drifter. A girl who slept on couches and in cheap motel rooms. She had black hair and pale skin and a habit of wearing gardenias in her hair. She was beautiful in that fragile, black and white photograph way. The kind of beauty that makes men stare too long. And she knew it. She used it. She'd tell people her husband was a pilot who died in the war. It wasn't true. She'd never been married. But lies were easier than the truth. The truth is she was broke. She was lonely. She was a girl who kept writing letters to men she'd met once, begging for $5, promising to pay them back. The last time anyone saw her alive was January 9th. The Biltmore Hotel in downtown LA. She was having a drink in the lounge. She was waiting for a man named Robert Manley. He dropped her off at the hotel around 6:45 p.m. Then she vanished. 6 days of silence. 6 days where nobody called the police. That's the part that sticks in your throat. She was so alone that a week could pass before anyone noticed she was gone. Now we have to talk about what happened to her body. And you need to understand this is not a crime scene. This is a surgical theater. The killer cut her in half with military precision. At the second lumbar vertebra. Clean through the cartilage between the bones. No hacking. No sawing. A single, deliberate slice. The coroner said it would take anatomical knowledge. Maybe a doctor. Maybe a butcher. Maybe someone who learned how to dress deer in the woods. Her intestines were arranged neatly under one arm. Like a coil of rope. Her organs were removed. Washed. Placed back inside her chest cavity. Her face was slashed, but here's the detail that makes your skin crawl. The killer drained every drop of blood from her body. Then they hosed her down. They posed her. They took their time. This wasn't a murder of passion. This was a performance. And the audience was supposed to be the entire city of Los Angeles. Because the killer called the newspaper. 3 days after the body was found. A man's voice on the phone to the Examiner. Calm. Professional. He said he was going to mail Elizabeth Short's belongings. And he did. A black purse. A social security card. A birth certificate. A snapshot of a man. And a small leather address book. The pages were soaked in gasoline. rubbed clean of fingerprints. But the killer missed one thing. A single page. Dry to the leather. On it, the name Robert Manley. That's the first hook. Manley was the last man to see her alive. He was a married salesman with a nervous smile. The police sweated him for 12 hours. They put him in a room with a hot light and a hard chair. They made him strip. They examined his clothes for blood. His shoes. His fingernails. Nothing. He had an alibi. His wife. His boss. A dozen people who saw him miles away the night she was killed. So they let him go. And the case went cold. But here's the thing that haunts the detectives who worked this. Robert Manley died 4 years later. He was found in a motel room. Wrists cut. A note pinned to his chest. The note said, "I couldn't live with the memory." Memory of what? Nobody ever knew. Over the years, hundreds of confessions poured in. 60 people walked into police stations and said, "I did it." They all failed the polygraph. They all wanted attention. But one letter stands out. Mailed to the Examiner in 1949. The writer claimed to be the killer. He said he would turn himself in if the paper printed his full confession. The editor agreed. The letter arrived. It was typed. 3 pages. It described the murder in detail that only the killer could know. The exact position of the body. The way the face was cut. The fact that her stomach contained undigested corn. That detail was never released to the public. The letter said, "I have waited for 3 years to tell you this. I am the Black Dahlia Avenger." The police traced the typewriter. It was an old model sold in a dozen stores across LA. They traced the paper. It was sold in drugstores by the ream. They traced nothing. The letter was a dead end. But it proved one thing. The killer was watching. He was reading the papers. He was playing a game. Now let's talk about the dark corners of this story. The parts that don't make sense. Why was her body drained of blood? That takes time. That takes a bathtub. That takes a place where nobody can hear you scream. The killer had a house. A garage. A basement. Somewhere private. Somewhere safe. And he kept her there. For days. He talked to her. He dressed her. He took photographs. This is what the profilers believe now. The killer didn't just murder Elizabeth Short. He owned her. For a brief, terrible time, she was his. And when he was done, he put her on display. Like a trophy. Like a warning. The Hollywood rumors are thick as smog. Some say it was a doctor. A surgeon who went mad. Some say it was a wealthy man from Pasadena. A family man who hid behind hedges and money. Some say it was a woman. A jealous lover. A jilted wife. The most persistent theory points to a man named Dr. George Hodel. A prominent physician. A genius. A monster. His own son, Steve Hodel, was a detective. And in 2003, Steve wrote a book claiming his father was the killer. He had evidence. Photographs. A diary. A tape recording where Dr. Hodel says, "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia. They couldn't prove it now. They can't talk to my dead friends." The DA reopened the case in 2006. They looked at the evidence. They looked at the photos. They looked at the tape. And they said nothing. No charges. No arrest. Just silence. The case file sits in the Los Angeles Police Department. It is over 300 pounds of paper. Thousands of pages. Hundreds of suspects. 0 arrests. The file is open. Technically. But no detective works it anymore. The lead is too cold. The witnesses are all dead. The killer is dead. Or maybe he isn't. Maybe he's 90 years old. Sitting in a nursing home in the valley. Watching the news. Smiling at nothing. Because here's the final detail. The one that sticks to your bones like wet wool. Elizabeth Short's body was never claimed. Her mother was too poor to afford the funeral. So the public paid for it. 7,000 strangers donated money to bury a girl they never knew. She was laid to rest in Mountain View Cemetery in Oakland. Her headstone reads Elizabeth Short. 1924 to 1947, but the stone is often covered in flowers. And lipstick kisses. And notes from strangers who can't let her go. They leave roses. They leave gardenias. They leave letters that say I'm sorry. They leave letters that say I know who did it. And sometimes, when the fog rolls in off the bay, a woman in a black dress stands at the grave. She stays for hours. She doesn't say a word. And when she leaves,